Welcome to the Old Lumens channel. Today I'm going to take a 2D Maglite. This is the incandescent version. This is the cheapest one. It's like $15.99 at Walmart. So I use the incans because they're cheap. And I'm going to make it into a cut down 1D Maglite. I've already taken the O-rings off of everything and disassembled the head from the body and the tail cap. I also have taken the switch out, and I'm probably going to be using the switch. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I will be using it for, I may gut it and use a different type of switch inside the casing, but I am going to use this section of the casing. So I just wanted to show you that these newer style Maglites all have a torque head screws in them. And worst come to worst, if you don't have the right size torque head, you can get by with a 2mm. Okay, this is what I'm doing here, is I'm just forcing, by pushing real tight to get a 2mm in there. And you can do the same thing with the screw, the set screw. You can use a 2mm as well. You just have to push real hard, and in fact what I do is I just take a pair of vice grips and hook on the end of it, and then just put the body in a vise and force real hard to get the screw out. But it works, because I'm not about to go buy a set of torque heads. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to go ahead and take this screw out and remove the guts out of here. There we go. That's all the little pieces, parts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hacksaw this whole post off of here. Alright, so I've taken the switch and put it in my vise, and I'm just going to take a hacksaw and cut this whole post assembly off. It's plastic. It doesn't take much to cut it. Okay, so we're just going to cut right through it and try to do it fairly straight, but we're going to clean it up afterwards, so I'm not worried too much about it. Okay, simple as that. Doesn't take too much. Then we'll just turn it over, and I don't know if you can see in the video or not, but it's cut at an angle here. Okay, it's not perfectly smooth, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a file, and I'm just going to file that down. In fact, before I get any further, I'm going to gut it. Take the guts out totally. Alright. And then, like I say, I'm just going to file this down. If this was metal, I think I'd probably use a different file, but this will work for this. That's pretty close, and I'll just take a little sanding block and hit it with a sanding block real quick. Clean this up a little bit. Okay, so that's the switch with the post cut off it, and I can use the original guts if I want, or I can change it into a different type of switch to fit inside of this housing. Alright, well, now that I've gotten the switch housing cut down, I'm going to throw it back inside the Maglite because I need to take some measurements. Alright, I'm going to be using, as I say, 1D or possibly 3 or 4 AA. I happen to have a 4 AA battery holder, and amazingly enough, I'm really surprised. I guess there's some variations in tube sizing when they make these Maglites, but that slides right in, and I really didn't think it would. Okay, so I may use 4 AA batteries, but I can use this as a base. The overall length of this is let's see, somewhere around 61.3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to base this on 65 millimeters. That's 61.3, millimeters. Well, I'm going to base it on 65 because the spring will make up any difference in that little bit. So I'm going to see how much I have down in here inside this Maglite, so I know how much I can cut off. Okay, so let's do this real quick, and I guess I'll do it off camera because I can't do it and you know what I'm saying. Okay, let's see. If I had to guess inside of here, and I go to the ridge that ends the battery compartment, I'm going to say about 132. Okay, so I got 132 millimeters there, and what I want to end up with is 65 millimeters. So what I need to do is remove enough off this Maglite to end up with 65 millimeters. Now I'm going to cut in this area of the knurling so that it doesn't show the seam very much. I'm going to be using the Human Lathe method, and it's not perfect. It can be a little sloppy. You might be able to see a seam, but when I get done, you won't be able to see a seam. So I thought that I'd just try to do a little video on this Human Lathe method and show you how it works. So right now I'm going to take some measurements and mark some measurements, and I'll be back. All right, so I've gone ahead and marked my measurements, and I decided, 132 millimeter, 65 millimeter, just call it 130 and take 65 millimeter off the barrel. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right here. I've marked all the way around with a straight edge and a pencil on both ends, and then I've used painter's masking tape to mark all the way around with it, to help guide my hacksaw. And we're at about 68 millimeter, somewhere around there. Close enough. I mean, I'm not going to worry about it too much. You got all that spring that can compensate for a couple millimeter here or there. Okay, so anyways, now I'm going to throw it into the vise, and I'm going to do a couple hacksaw cuts. Well, cutting with a hacksaw is, fairly plain and simple. I've put this in a vise, and I'm going to start my hacksaw cut, and I'm going to try to cut and get a fairly straight cut. Now I've left a little bit away from the tape, and I'll take care of that later with a file, but I'm going to start off and try to get a halfway decent start on it, and then try to cut straight. And it's never going to cut straight. With a hacksaw, it's going to be off a little, but we're going to take care of that in the end, Now, one thing about it is I will, if I'm going to not be straight, I'm going to be off this way towards the center so I can remove material, because if I'm off this way towards the outside, I can ruin it. So I'd rather have extra material that I got to take off with a file than have not enough material and be too short. So I'm already leaning that way with the file. Okay, I'll take it off with a hacksaw. I'll take it off with a file later. Okay, that's one cut, and I'll go ahead and do the other cut, and then we'll work on the file to get them straight. Okay, we're back on again. Now I've made both my cuts, and I've put one section in the vise, and I've just put it in the vise so it's just raised a little bit. Now I don't have a lot of fancy stuff to be able to tell whether or not I'm going to be fairly level or fairly even with that cut, and I know the cut's off, so that when I put it in a vise just a little bit, I can see that one side's higher than the other. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to work the file across this until it touches the vise. And that's about as close as I can get with my cuts, and then I'll just take and turn this around as I work it and try to just get it to where it's flush with the top of that vise and call it a day. So I'm starting with a real coarse file. Okay, this is a half-round bastard file. It's just what I happen to have. You can see how aluminum has plugged it up pretty good. Aluminum's pretty bad on any kind of cutting. But anyways, it's a real coarse file, so when I cut with this, it's going to take quite a bit of material off, right away to get the cut down as fast as I can and not spend a lot of time on it. Then later on, as I work it, I'll come down with a finer file. And you can see I'm hitting the vise. Okay, so then I'm going to take and turn this around about 90 degrees or so. Try to get it lined up again to where it's just barely flush. And I'll even, I'll double check with a level, and it's not too bad. And then I'll work it again. To raise it up a hair. Seems like a lot of work, It is a lot of work. And you probably can't see with the video camera. In fact, I know you can't see with the video camera, but I can see from the file marks that I'm high and low, So that's how I sort of distinguish where I am with this thing, is just to continue to do this and work around a little bit at a time. To work this file, get the height the same all the way around. Well, that's enough of that. I'm sure you've seen enough of that, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we'll work on trying to make an inner and outer lip on this so it can fit together. Alright, I've got my two pieces cut and filed, and I've taken a straight edge and just checked for overall height so that they're fairly even on both pieces. And then I've also got a mark on both pieces already, and what I did was to just take a plain old square and go ahead and hold it up to it and go through and look all the way around to see, you know, if the body's cocked one way or the other. And I found the best point and then made my index marking. So the next step from that is to start on the Human Lathe. I'm going to be using a rotary tool for doing the inside of one half of the barrel, and I'll be using files on the outside of the other half. Now, as far as my distance in, I'm just going to go in the depth of that tool head, and that's it. All right. So when I work on the inside, I'll work just that depth. I'll be doing it by eye, so it'll be off a little bit, but it shouldn't be a big deal. To start with, so I get a rough idea of what I'm doing on the inside, I will take a marker and just run a mark all the way around. And yeah, I can't talk while I'm doing this, you know how it goes. Give me an idea of how much material to take away. I'll be doing the same thing on the other side, on the outer edge, as I take material away. And it's all by eye and by fit. I just take a little at a time and then you know, try to fit it up. All right, the next thing is I'm going to be taking this to the vise, where I can start to get a little work done on the cut. Alright, now we're at the vise, and I'm going to turn on my rotary tool so you probably won't be able to hear me anymore. Maybe not. Maybe I won't turn it on. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, let's see if it works now. My rotary tool might not make it to the end of this video. Okay. I'm just going to take the tool and place it in here. And you can see fairly easily whether you got the tool cocked in too much or out too much, and I can tell I got it cocked out a little bit. So I'm going to, by doing that, by removing that anodize, you can see pretty easily if you're keeping it level. Okay, that'll give you a little bit of an idea of how I do that. And you just keep working the tool, and then what I do is I take a magic marker and color it black again, alright, as I work around. And then as I'm removing material, it removes a magic marker. That way I can sort of keep a pretty good idea of how I'm doing as far as keeping the tool level and the depth. Alright. That's basically what it amounts to, is using that rotary tool to do the inside. And then I'll show you a little bit on how I use the file on the outside. Okay, now I've got the other side, and I'm going to show you a little bit of how I use the file. Now, since I've gone the depth of the rotary tool here on the inside, the inner part, I'm going to go a little less than that on the outside so that it gives me a snug fit. And you can see I'm going to be basically just taking all the knurl off, just a little bit past that. And instead of going all the way in, I don't want to have too long of a shoulder and have to cut it even more, so I'm just going to make a shorter shoulder. It's not going to hurt on the inside. All right. Then I'm just going to take my files, and this file that I'll use has cutting on the edge, on one edge, as well as cutting on both flats, and that helps to give a clean cut right along that tape line. It's just a matter of working that file, and you have to start off, you sort of got to start somewhere, so you got to get a flat edge done. And I guess I probably ought to say that when I get frustrated with the fact it doesn't cut very fast, that I'll go ahead and use the bastard file. And because that way it cuts faster, and then I can make a clean edge with the other one. So if I work this bastard file, to where I can give you something to show, and then work the other file you can see I can work a fairly clean edge with that other file, and it's basically just a matter of taking that down all the way around. It's time consuming, but it's the only way that I know. I've tried the rotary tool, and man, on the inside of something, on an inner diameter, the rotary tool works pretty good. But when you get it on the outer diameter, slip all the time, and it's not too good. So, anyways, that's about the end of how I do a human lathe routine. And when it's all done, I'll show you before I put it together. Okay, well, we've gotten to the final part of this video where I'm going to show you what the end result is. This is the 2D after it's been cut up and shortened, and I just wanted to give you an idea of what the seam looks like. You can see here it's not a real tight seam, but this is all going to be filled in with JB Weld, and it's going to be smoothed over, and then that whole area is going to be painted, so it really won't show after it's done. I don't think you can see the inside, but there is a not a lip, but there is a shallow groove on the inside, because remember I said I didn't take as much material off of this end as I did that, so it would fit in tight. And I just worked it in stages until this thing was very tight. I had to use a rubber mallet to put it together, so I know it's not going to come apart. I just wanted to show you a little bit more detail about this rotary tool. I ended up using a rotary tool for both sides. I know I said earlier that it's pretty hard to do it on the outside, but I found it can be done, and it's a lot quicker. This whole thing probably took about a total of about 2 hours to do all the cutting, and then the final fitting took a little longer than that. But I want to show, this is just a rotary tool, and I'm using the flex extension, and that's a Dremel rotary bit. Okay, it works real good. Boy, I've done quite a bit with it, and it's not really dulled up bad yet. So it's a really good bit and hardened well. So I just want to show you the use of the tool on the inside and the outside here for a minute. So. Now you can see on the inside that I've already got a lip there, and you can see where I've taken away the anode. And what I do is I just continue to coat that lip, because you can walk this tool one way or the other, and then you don't get an even cut. So I just take a marker like that, mark that tool, or mark that spot back up again, and then when I use the tool again, it'll show me what I'm doing when I remove material. See right there it shows, and I know the camera probably can't show, but I'm off a little. I'm only doing the outside edge, so I know I need to come into the inside and do it that way. Okay, so that's how I work on the inside, and like I say, I try to use the depth of the tool itself to go through. Now I'm going to do a little bit on the outside. Alright, you can see on the outside I'm trying not to go as deep with that tool. And again, it's the same kind of thing. You can mark that outside so that you know what you're taking away. And what's going to happen is on the outside, to me anyways, the outside is a lot more difficult, so you tend to cut at an angle. And I'll show you how to correct that here in a minute. Okay, now on the outside, what happened to me was I tended to cut more, and you might be able to see it. I tended to cut more down in towards where the inside was than I cut on the outside. And I can see an angle right there now, so it's like this instead of flat. So when I got to that point, then I just took a marker, and I would look at it and then just mark just the edge wherever I needed to bring that front down, because some spots it looked okay and some spots it was off, and then throw it back in there again, and then just work that marker off of that to help level it off. And the final part of that on the outside was to go ahead and take a file, and that's the final step, is to help make a nice clean step in here, and to level that off was to take a file, okay, and use the file across it and I'm not going to do a lot here, I'm just trying to show you, but see, I've taken off that lip, and if I work the file, if I get this down lower where I can work on it pretty good, because you need to take your material off of there. Then I can work that lip, and at the same time I can make a fairly clean edge. So that's it. I think that's really the end of it. Like I say, the final result is a cut down, now a 1D Maglite, and once I finish with the JB Weld and smooth it all down, and then paint over this section with the textured paint that I use, we never even know it's there. All right, thanks.